Go ahead.
I just wanted to see, I just don't see John, and I was gonna ask how he and his wife are doing, but I didn't think that was appropriate for the recording.
She's doing better. Doing much better.
She's okay?
She's doing better. I wouldn't say she's okay, but she's doing better.
Okay.
And as a consequence, he is doing better as well.
Well, of course.
And I don't know, he didn't say that he wasn't going to be here, so he may or may not. All right, well, welcome everyone. Let's officially start the Los Angeles Astronomical Society General Meeting for July 11th, 2022. Welcome everybody. Welcome everyone. Do we have any new members? I see maybe a couple of faces that I haven't seen before. No new members tonight? No.
Who's the guy with the white long beard?
Old member. He's a brand new.
He's definitely not new.
Just call me Dumbledore.
Wait. Dumbledore died at least twice already. Stop that.
Yeah, and he can come back. He's magic, right?
The Casey Green there, Daryl. That's a new member. I think is that correct?
That's me. Nice to meet you guys.
Hi, Casey. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would, for a sec.
Sure. I am a concert promoter and a huge space nerd, and I've been living in LA for about.
Oh, we lost.
For long enough to leave.
Meet some like-minded folks who probably know a lot more about this topic.
You're back. We didn't hear. We didn't
So
hear
there
you
you go.
for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Zoom from the phone is terrible. But no, I've been living in LA for the last 4 years now. I'm a concert promoter and a big space nerd, and got a telescope, and my husband and I enjoy watching the night sky and learning more. And I thought it would be really cool to join a group of people who are super interested in the same thing.
Welcome.
Great.
Welcome.
What part of town you live in?
I'm out in the valley, out in Lake Balboa.
Okay, that's a little far for Garvey, but you guys should make a.
I'm in Reseda, and Phil is nearby in Northridge. So we go to Garvey out usually on Wednesdays.
Garvey Ranch Park is going to be a good place for new members and people with telescopes and want to learn how to use them more and better.
We'd love to have you there.
Awesome. I will definitely be there.
Although
And,
you might
It's
want
good.
to
The website has the information for all of our sites, and that is one of them.
Yeah, but you might want to wait because it doesn't really get dark there until practically 9 o'clock. So if and the moon this Wednesday I predict won't rise high enough above the trees and the buildings until about maybe 10 o'clock. We're going to be out of there.
You can still teach them how to use their telescope.
But while it's getting dark, there's a lot of really good people to talk to there. So that's
You'll learn a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah, Dave's always such a pessimist.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this the one new member. Welcome, Casey.
Don't forget to hit us up on the chat.
Jeff fell off his chair.
Spencer, do you want to post the? Oh
yeah.
Somebody's mic is on. Who's that? Okay, we're good. Spencer, you want to post the? Who am I hearing?
Ernesto. I think he's got a problem with his mic. You might want to mute him for a moment.
I just muted him.
Okay.
Okay. You're saying I should post a link for the drawing?
Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
Hang on, just let me get it up there. I'll post it. Okay, here we go. Just a second.
You know that's why we all came here, don't you?
Okay.
By the
We're
way,
not ready to do it yet, Spencer. Okay.
going to say you're sharing your screen.
Yeah, I know. I not anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Tim needs another hat.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I'm going to give him one right now. We should bring up the dark sky petition for members that haven't heard about it and new members.
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me post the link. Well, I'm posting the link. Hang on. Too many windows open here.
You can only sign the petition once. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can only sign once, but yeah.
Oh, darn.
We have about 1,500 people have signed so far.
Oh, that's good. Every time I hear you say it's a much bigger number.
Yeah, so we're trying to get the we're trying to get
That's
the board of
awesome.
supervisors on board, but there are the particular office that we're dealing with is being rather truculent about it. So we're hoping to get a lot of people to contact their supervisors and get them to change some of the ordinances that have been passed to encourage dark sky friendly lighting, but have never been enforced really.
Yeah, enforcement.
Yeah. They say, well, if they complain, we'll do something about it. But
Yeah, right.
Okay, so you can post that in the chat.
yeah, I will post that in the
and
chat as well.
And the
Also
check is-
available,
and the check
link
is
on the
in mail.
website. Also available on the website.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
For those that remember what checks are.
Let's see, we haven't had, bringing up the data on Griffith Park star parties, still not Griffith Park star parties. They're slowly getting back to normal, but slowly is the key word there. And
I did, I was there Saturday morning and I brought up to the volunteers in the foundation the idea of having our volunteers help out at the star parties. So they are going to definitely pass that on to Mark and the others up there. They all like the idea.
all right,
Okay.
but none on the calendar so far. So nothing happening there.
Daryl,
all right.
is the issue at Griffith still?
Richard, you cut out.
I lost you there.
COVID related.
Richard,
It's still COVID and still and they don't have enough people to run it yet.
COVID and staffing.
It is a staffing issue.
Yes,
more
staffing.
than COVID.
Both.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the
Left here
committee.
this time, honey.
I'm sorry, say? Question?
It's another hot mic. There are too many mics open.
Okay.
Silence yourselves if you're not talking like me.
Sorry, guys. All right, let's do the committee reports. Let's hear from, I see Byram is here, Director of Ford Observatory, one of our sites. So I want to tell everyone, I know you just told us at the board meeting, but you can bring everyone else up to speed about how we're doing there and what the next date is, if you have one.
Yes, okay. As probably some of you know, we had a fire up in Wrightwood in June, and luckily that didn't get any closer than about maybe 3 miles from the observatory. We did not have any smoke problems or anything at the observatory, so we got through that one fairly well. Joe Phipps and I are usually up there most weekends. We're up in the Wrightwood area most weekends, so if anybody wants to come up and look at the facilities or something like that, then Joe Phipps and I are usually up there. And the next planned star party we will probably have will be on July 30th. That's a Saturday night. I think July 23rd, I think, is Family Day at Lockwood. And I think Joe was planning on going to Family Day at Lockwood. So unless I can get someone else to help me with the observatory, we may not do anything on the 23rd, but we'll plan to do something on the 30th of July, weather, and of course, smoke and any fires permitted, depending on the conditions. Also, we had the Mountaineer Days this weekend up in Wrightwood. First time in a couple of years they've had it up there. And I talked to some of the people at the ski area. I talked to the ski area and wanted to find out, I may want to try to put together a public star party at the Table Mountain parking lot at the Mountain High North facility. I'm going to try to put together a public star party. I suspect in the late summer, early fall. I like to get some planets in the sky beside just the star clusters and stuff like that. I'd like to get some planets in the sky, and would like to try to have a public star party for the people in Wrightwood and basically the high desert and maybe we'll put out a call to get some members of LAAS members up there to Wrightwood. I think it would be a fun star party. I've been trying to do that last couple of years, and then the COVID hit and kind of messed up everything. So we're going to try to plan to do that. Like I said, late summer, early fall, possibly first part of September or something like that. We're not sure just right now until we get everything coordinated. Also would like to talk to Tim, and maybe Tim and I can coordinate. I'd like to see if we can write a little article for the local newspapers up in Wrightwood about Ford Observatory. Because we probably have a lot of hikers that go up in that area, and they walk up there 3 miles up the road to walk up the road and see this observatory up there and probably have no idea what it's all about. So it'd be kind of nice to have a little article for the local newspaper in Wrightwood in the high desert. So Tim, I'll be talking to you about that. But anyway, we'll be announcing club events here coming up, and hopefully we don't have any more forest fires.
Hopefully.
Thank you,
Oh, by
Byron.
the way, Greg Thomas mounted a temporary, it's kind of temporary, but we got it mounted on there. We got the 6-inch f12 DNG refractor mounted onto the 18-inch telescope. Joe and I also put a little bracket on there so we can put a laser finder on it so we can find things easier in the telescope. So we're making some little minor improvements to it, but I think overall it's going to be quite good.
Great. I like the idea of a star party. We have the members outside with telescopes as well.
Yeah,
you got. Well,
it's going to be at the parking lot where the Mountain High North facility is at. They have a restroom facility up there. They also have a snack bar, but I don't know if they're going to open the snack bar. But it's a nice, very, very large parking lot. It's just to the east of Table Mountain Campground. For those of you that are familiar with the area, there's a huge parking lot there where the originally the Mountain High North a ski area used for parking lot. So that's where we'd like to set up. It's kind of at the end of Table Mountain Road. Well, the next part of Table Mountain Road is Table Mountain Observatory, JPL's facility. That's closed off. So there's a parking lot up there. We'd like to do it up there, and I think we can handle a lot of cars up there.
All right, cool. Look
Okay,
forward to
so
that.
I'll let the board know. I'll let the club know when we're going to do that.
Curtis,
Yes.
when were you planning on trying to do that article?
Like to try to get it in the newspaper. We have to go about a month. Well, the local newspaper, we got 2 newspapers. We got one that's a weekly edition and another one that is a monthly edition. The announcement for the Star Party, I'll get in a monthly edition, but the Mountaineer Progress is a weekly paper. And it'd be nice to have an article in that newspaper for Ford Observatory, basically. And I like to get with Tim, and him and I can coordinate that thing and get it all done.
Would my services as a photographer be helpful?
Maybe we may want to have you come up, maybe take some good quality pictures of stuff, but I think we've got a pretty good assortment right now, but we can talk about that if we need you. Okay.
I need a little bit of lead time if
yes.
I help you there, because that is what I do for a living. So
I think we've got enough photographs for an article. It would probably be 1 or 2 photographs, one to show the observatory, which we've already got a decent photograph, and basically one to show the telescope, and I think we've got photographs to do that already. So okay, I think we're covered on photographs.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard, for offering.
Thanks for your volunteering assistance on that. Appreciate that.
No worries.
Okay, great. Let's hear from the director of the Darby Ranch Observatory. That's Tim Thompson. The new director, newly appointed director.
I guess the most pressing issue of the day is the Wi-Fi, and I guess Daryl, you're going to be there Thursday when the satellite people install their their internet connection.
Yes, we're
My-
doing, is this Skylink? What is it?
No, it's Viasat.
Viasat, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm meeting them. I think they're going to be there at 8 a.m.
Between 8 and 11.
I will be there.
Yeah, they never give you a time. They say, well, be there between dawn and dusk or something like that. It's always like that.
Actually, they called me yesterday and they wanted to be there today.
Well, my own travel plans have changed. I am going to see Monsignor Royer tomorrow, but I'm going to come back Wednesday. So Wednesday night, I should be there for the Boy Scouts. I can act smart again for whatever reason. And
They don't know any better. They think you are smart, Tim.
They think you're an astrophysicist, for God's sake.
Yeah, I wonder how they got that idea. And
wonder-
I should be able to be there Thursday morning.
Gotta be the beard.
Going,
The beard.
Okay.
yeah.
Gotta be the
Greg.
beard.
Can you, Tim,
Just a
can you contact David Atias and ask him if he needs to be there or wants to know about this?
I can. He knows it's going to be done, so he already knows about it. I saw him Friday, and we talked about it.
Okay.
So I'll let him know if he wants to be there, but I doubt he'll be there at 8 o'clock in the morning because he's got screamy little kids, when he goes to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. Right. So he can be there.
Wait a second, Greg. Is this a merit badge event?
Yeah, I
again?
was going to wait till Daryl got to me, but maybe in conjunction with the Garvey report, I could fill in.
I was going to give you your whole scout report.
Okay.
I was going to give you the floor by yourself.
Okay. I was waiting patiently, but David has to deal with the scouts up in the dome, so I'm very respectful of letting him know what's going on.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay. And the loaner program is starting up probably within a month or so. I would think that might actually be in place. We just need a couple of things. We need something for the people to sign to take out a telescope. We have nothing written down for a small contract kind of thing. And we need to lock down how we're going to charge them or get a down payment on the telescope so that we know that they'll bring it back. So we're working on those details on that, but that's it's coming along. We have a bunch of telescopes that we can start loaning out, and that'd be really good.
Are we, I'm
Where's
sorry,
that list?
are we
Yes.
going to be talking about the Boy Scout thing at Garvey down it later tonight?
Yes,
Okay, cool.
everyone just can't wait to get to you, Greg.
All right.
Anything else at Garvey? We're doing pretty good there.
There's a list of the loaners.
Yeah.
There, I think Keith is compiling that list as we're putting them together and putting kits together for each one. I think he's going to start an inventory. And
Cool.
while he's doing that, I think
Thank you.
I would like to maybe have him expand and just do an inventory on most of the things that we have that are worth anything and maybe tag them. We do need an asset tracking. We're starting to get enough assets that we really need to do that. So I'll ask him if he can add that onto the loaner program as just more items on that list.
I'm not sure if there's any thing I can do to help volunteer, but I would if Keith wants.
I'm sorry, who's this?
It's Jeff, the guy who
Oh.
insulted everybody at a JPL.
Well, I don't know. Come by Garvey and help if you want.
So the only other issue we had at Garvey was that an eyepiece was missing. It's not missing anymore. It was just mislaid. It was put in some other box than what it was supposed to be. And Joe Phipps was searching so diligently for it, he found better eyepieces. And so we're replacing the missing eyepiece. We don't need any more with better eyepieces. So there you are.
Every
that's not just-
good, no good deed goes unpunished, or
Well,
every
that's
deed
not
goes
just
unpunished?
conjecture either. Last Wednesday, we see that scope is accepts 2-inch eyepieces. To use 1 1/4, we got to use an adapter, and that always takes time. We got to put 3 things together to get the high mags, but now we only have to put 2 things together, and they both fit into the that 2-inch eyepiece holder. So, and we got a better view of the moon anyway last Wednesday. So, and then after that, he found the missing eyepiece, and it's like, well, who cares? Literally, I was in the mood of who cares. It's 25 millimeters opposed to 24 millimeters. We got a 2-inch Barlow, which I don't know. The 2-inch Barlow was the thing that amazed me. I expected, a big fat 2-inch 25 mil, but then a 2 times Barlow that fit with that was like, this is like heaven. So it's like, we won't use this stuff. It's nice that we found it and we knew where it was, but we don't need it.
You find a lot of things when you really clean it up.
Yeah. You already discovered that yourself, cleaning it.
Yes, I have multiple times.
So I think that's all I need to say about Garvey. Come have coffee, have fun, and don't worry if the sun's not down yet.
Yeah. And it looks like we'll probably have Wi-Fi again, not tomorrow, but probably by the following Wednesday. I mean, it should be up, I'm assuming, the day that they are there. So
yeah, it should be up before they leave.
okay. I won't let them go then.
Spencer, as a tryout, I want to try to record our August class as a video or streaming video. So I'll talk to you about that later.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll need the internet to get it loaded up, right?
Yeah, it works. I mean, I've done when we had VSET at Lockwood, I did a Zoom streaming session from there. It worked fine.
Great.
Good.
Thanks.
Spencer,
Okay.
is there a reason for going with that over Starlink for Garmin?
Starlink will not be available until 2023.
Got it. Okay, it's location based.
Yeah.
Yeah. That section of town is not turned on yet. Next door, not too far away, but not there.
Just wondered because the Starlink at Lockwood is so superior to what we had before.
And when Starlink becomes available in Lockwood, we'll probably drop VSAT again. So, but in the meantime, they're the only game in town.
Okay.
Within reasonable amount of money. Anyway. Okay. Well, Greg, here you go. Scout report.
Okay. Well, we're in the middle of our scouting astronomy merit badge program this summer. We're in the second of our third class this Wednesday, the 13th at Garvey Ranch Observatory. The scouts will be taking over the classroom as we usually do. And then after the sun goes down, I'll be releasing the scouts, and I'm hoping that some of our members will run free.
Sorry, releasing the scouts was fun.
Releasing the scouts from the classroom part of it, which is it's a fairly academic badge for scouting, and I think the scouts do a good job. So we anyone that would like to come and sit up on the lawn, I would really appreciate it. The scouts are learning both what they're looking at and also a little bit about telescopes. So please share with them, what type of telescope it is and what you're looking at, and some things like that. David is very, very patient to take groups of scouts up in the dome. I'll try to get someone on the door so we don't send, 12 kids up there all at once, but switch them off in maybe groups of 5 or 6.
What time does it start?
I think we get there about 7. We have registration, but Garvey Ranch, normally we open them at 7:30, right? So by 7:30, the front door is open. I've got my scouts there, and the sun doesn't go down for an hour and a half anyway. So,
Great. Thank you.
The coffee gets made, people sit up on the lawn. I'm talking to scouts in the classroom there just adjacent to the lawn, and then we let them go, visit the workshop and go up in the dome, and then the scopes out on the lawn. And they are doing requirements, even when they're going up in the dome, and when they're out on the lawn, they have to keep notes on what they saw and apply what hopefully they're learning. So the next one is and the third and final class of the summer is on August 10th. I really appreciate the membership and the board for supporting the program. We're closing in on about 200 scouts have earned their badge through the support of this organization, and hope to continue to do it in the future years. So if anyone has any willingness to join in or just bring a telescope or be a counselor for the thing, any question that you have, if you have any kind of a academic or industry or space-related career at all, we have a career panel, which is usually only 5 or 10 minutes at the end, but you're welcome to come and sit in. The scouts don't get much chance to actually talk to people who have worked in the field or a related field of any kind. So anyway, that's the plug. Thanks a lot. I will see you guys Wednesday night. I'll have an ice chest of cold drinks and cookies, so it'll be we'll have
May I
that for
ask why this isn't done during like winter when we actually get dark by 7?
So most of the scouts, of course, are in school, and the parents
Well,
are
that's
not. They're not very happy about letting the schedule. Summer just works out better. But you're right about the time frame. But I've got
Forgot
you
about
know
that.
an hour and a half of classroom anyway, so I guess the sun can be up during that just
Okay.
as well. So
Dave, how early do you start seeing things when you open the dome? I mean, I know
Oh
that
man, these days I'm trying to find Arcturus, which is the 4th brightest star, and it's directly above us. And oftentimes I don't see it till 8:30.
okay.
I mean, I don't see it in any way, shape, or form, and I'm looking for it. And if Evan was here, he'd vouch for me. He says, "Yeah, I only spotted it at 8:20 or something like that." It's like, yeah, fairly late.
I know.
We believe you.
Huh?
I know. I've been trying to do imaging too, and I can't even start until 9.
Yeah.
Right.
That's about
correct.
right, 9 p.m.
That's correct.
Unfortunately, the phase of the moon is not favorable because I think it's like right at or a half a night after full moon. So it rises when I check 3 sources, it rises at 8:23 or something like that. That's the flat horizon. Lord knows how long it's going to take to get above that hill to our east. So
Okay.
it's a mixed blessing. It gives us something that the public and the scouts love to look at, but it washes everything else out. So
yeah, but you're going to be
if it's
busy
up great.
talking to them. You're going to be busy
Yeah.
talking to them. So just pad it out till about 9 so I can get the moon in there.
All right. Don't worry. Yeah.
So Greg,
Yeah.
silly question. Well, you were talking about Wednesday. You're talking about Wednesday this week, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so let me jump back in. You and I, well, we talked about this a month ago in our meeting, and I was going to be there.
Mhm.
I guess, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago?
So it was exactly a month ago, but yeah.
Yeah, and my computer on my scope died. And it took me a week to come up with fix. So I have a new computer on my telescope. The old computer is going to become a LAAS donation. We're going to put it on the TAC up at Lockwood eventually when I get it repaired. But in the meantime, my system is working again. So my question is it worthwhile? I know if the skies are horrible and the location is not great, but I assume that we can aim at something in the sky and go through a sequence of how you do imaging, whether it be starting at polar alignment to calibration files, to here's what the system looks like, to, oh, look, here's a picture we were just taking on the laptop. Is that
Right.
worthwhile? Do I plan on coming out this Wednesday now that I'm back in business?
Well, certainly if you can come and bring any telescope, first of all, the scouts are required to learn the difference between a reflector and a refractor and a polar and a ALTAS. And, it's not a trivial badge to get. They don't just run around and look at things and get a badge. So even if it were cloudy or there's nothing really good to look at, you're still fulfilling a role in just showing your setup to the scouts. Now, if you can manage to get it pointed at something at Garvey, that's like a big bonus because the kids can see that.
So Richard, you probably have about an hour of dark enough skies to show people stuff on, and you put camera on it right away, right? You don't have eyepiece.
No, and the bottom line is if we're going to show them the whole sequence, what we can show them is polar alignment and calibration files.
I don't think you're going to have time to do any of that kind of stuff. This is not a teaching environment for you at that time.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
more
that's
of
not
a,
what I meant. I meant in 30 minutes of it's not dark enough to see something yet. My scope is still doing polar alignment and calibration files, which means I get to start earlier than normal imaging.
I try not to, they have something like 31 requirements they have to fill. And so I have to cover all that in the classroom. I tend not to let them out on the lawn until it's starting or is actually already dark. Because so you would have time to do those setup things and the calibrations and see what you can get as it's getting dark. But I would send the scouts to come out and they're going to visit all the scopes that are on the lawn. They're going to go up in the dome and hopefully visit the workshop. So they've got a few minutes to look at your setup, and I'd expect them like to see a Schmidt or a refractor or like to understand what they're looking at as a setup and then tell them how you're using it. But you're talking about a minute or so of demo, not a long
Got it.
demo.
Okay, so I forget everything I just said. Daryl's right. All that goes out the window because I don't even care about polar alignment because I don't care about the images being any good.
Most of these kids will have never looked through a telescope before or even know one scope from another. So just showing them the setup, and if you can get it pointed at something in the sky and show them an image, they're not going to know the difference. They're going to think it's amazing. So we really appreciate the support if you can make it.
So to the other guys here that know more about this than I do in general, should I deal with sharp cap instead of actually capturing regular images pointed at something like sharp cap?
We're using sharp cap on the Garvey Ranch Observatory. We have to. There's no other choice if we're going to image anything. But my plan, I keep forgetting that today's Monday. My plan on Wednesday, now that I know that the scouts are coming, is probably to find Arcturus ASAP so that if Greg lets them out a little early, I got something to show them. That's probably 8:30-ish, Greg, to give you some kind of time frame with any sort of luck. And then after that, I'm going to be monitoring the moon very carefully. I'll probably be asking the guys out on the lawn, do you see it? If they can see it, I can see it. But if they can't, I can't, even with elevation. But the moon's the second target.
Let's see how the weather is that night too. Okay.
No,
well, I think we're in pretty good shape this next week. We've got a high pressure coming in. We'll probably be all right.
I thought it was going to be clear.
My question is, I need to pre-plan what I'm going to do. So that's why I'm asking you guys, if I'm going to go on Wednesday night, what should I plan on showing them? Should I go for something simple like the what's it called? The Mercurian chain? Because that gets up pretty early, right?
Yeah, but it's not going to get dark enough to image, at least with the Garvey Ranch equipment. It never got dark enough to image till about past 9.
Richard.
We got to get out of there by about 10.
Got it.
Richard, tell you what, Richard, bring your stuff and try it, and you'll know what it's like, and you'll know how much time you have, and you'll know what you can see or not see.
Okay.
Okay.
I just like to pre-plan. If somebody else is going to look at the screen on the laptop, I'd like to have them look at something that's worthwhile.
Well, show them what you think is worthwhile.
Okay.
Okay. Let's put the drawing link back up on the chat, and then let me introduce our guest speaker for tonight.
All right. So here, let me just display the. Okay, that's our guest speaker, and you want to introduce him, and I'll put the link for the dark sky and the drawing in the chat.
Okay. Well, Dave, I haven't seen you for a long time in person, but I do see you, and a lot of your work show up online, and I like all of it.
Yeah.
It looks. I have a first question for me is most of your collection stuff that you have actually gone and hunted and found, or just acquired?
No, I purchased. I once went out to Lucerne Dry Lake Bed in the hopes of finding some meteorites, because, well, at Griffith Observatory, we have a few from there in our California meteorite display. And so I basically brought what you do for a dry lake bed as a a stick with a magnet at the end of it, and eyes. You just walk around. Dry lake beds generally don't have a lot of rocks, and you're looking for this dark rock that just doesn't look like it belongs. Unfortunately, the dry lake bed is used for amateur rocket, no, that's not competitions, but they shoot off rockets there. They have big events. They're actually cool. I went to one, but there's tons of rocket stuff, debris strewn all over the place. And, a few of those, they look dark. They don't generally stick to a magnet. And then there's also magnetite. So I basically found rocket parts and one golf ball. I don't know what I did with the golf ball, but I kept it because I didn't want to drive all the way there and not come home with something.
Right. All right. Well, let's officially kick off your talk for the night. Tell us all about some.
Okay. So I guess you do screen share, and I hope I'm not going to mess this up because I haven't done a Zoom thing in a long time. So I'm going to hit screen share. Desktop. Oh boy. Not sure how this works. I allow us to share your, Oh, I don't understand this here.
Are you going to do a Zoom? A PowerPoint presentation?
No, it's just my photos on a Mac, and I have a folder with that. And
you should share the application, whatever it is you're going to open them with, open them up, and it should give you an option to share that.
Yeah.
And if not, just share your desktop, and
You
we'll
gotta
see all
share
your
it
secret
twice.
Okay.
Zoom makes you share it twice.
God, it's I've always struggled with this. It says desktop 1, and it's got an arrow or exclamation point. So it's saying I can't do that. Photos, maybe that's it. Okay, let's see if that works.
If you display it on your screen and then share screen on Zoom, that's always worked for me.
Share, huh?
Open your picture files so that you can see them.
Yeah.
And then share it.
Share screen is at the bottom of the Zoom.
Oh, I've been hitting that, and it's saying I need to. Oh, okay. Hold on a second. It's allow apps below to record contents of your screen.
The problem is for some of us on Macs, we have multiple desktops, and Zoom does not like multiple desktops.
Okay. Hold on. I didn't know I have to give it permission to use that. Okay. Okay.
The PC.
There it goes. Okay. It says quit and reopen. I may lose you for a minute. Okay. I guess it says I have to leave the meeting. Let me, oh boy.
You shouldn't have to do that.
I didn't know I had to do any of this. I thought, I never had this problem before.
What happens when you pull up the pictures and you just look at them yourself on that folder?
I have the pictures on my, screen right now, but.
Okay, so somewhere there, you should be able to see a share.
But I had to ask permission to do it, and now it's making me go off, apparently.
David,
let me try
the
this.
problem is we have multiple desktops on the Mac.
Oh, never mind. I got it.
Zoom doesn't know how to deal with that.
Okay, let's do this. I think I got it now.
There you go.
There we go.
Hey.
Okay.
Success.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit this now and do
Maximize.
Hold on a second. Where is the photos? Okay. Hold on a second.
Full screen.
There you go. You got it?
Hey. Yes.
Okay, finally.
Looking good.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that. I may I'm so used to talking in front of people at Griffith that as soon as I do Zoom, I always do something wrong. Anyway, okay. So this is basically talk about my collection, but I'm also going to talk about what you're seeing and how they're formed and all kinds of stuff. This is kind of a little photo of the display I have of some of my collection. It's not all of them. And some of these are, you're going to see really good, nicely done photos of them. Now, I didn't take any of these photos with my phone. This was purely done with proper lighting and everything. So anyway, so let's start. First thing I'm going to do is show you a chart. Basically, there's three basic types of meteorites. There's stony iron, and iron meteorites. The most common type are stone. So if you hear of a meteorite falling, you can very well make good money by just betting that it's a stone meteorite. I rarely do you hear of iron meteorite falls, maybe Socotoline in 1947. And amongst the stony, the most common are what's called chondrites, especially the ordinary chondrite. The other ones I'll be showing you are some carbonaceous, and those do have a small percentage of carbon in there. Generally, they come from the farther away part of the asteroid belt, where it's cooler, and there is some water mixed in with some of them. And then you have the achondrites. So first off, I forgot to mention what chondrites, what constitutes a chondrite. Basically, chondrites have these circular inclusions in them. And they are basically formed when the stuff was, in the beginning of the solar system, just floating around, and some of that dust gets flash melted somehow. They're not sure how, and it, melts into a ball, and they start to clump together with other dust and such, with matrix and little bits of iron. And all of a sudden you start to have an asteroid. And chondrites are basically undifferentiated asteroids. Basically, it's all of the stuff that's just mixed together. And when you hold a piece of an ordinary chondrite or carbonaceous chondrite, you're holding basically the first geological processes in the solar system. Which is really cool. So there's nothing ordinary about ordinary chondrites other than the fact that if you see something fall, it's basically going to, be a huge chance that it's a ordinary chondrite. So let's move on to the next one. Oh, sorry that this is so small, but yeah, it was bigger in my other screen. Anyway, this is the chemical composition of a chondrite. There are basically three different types: H, L, and LL. H chondrites have the highest total iron, high metal, but a low iron oxide in the silicates. L chondrite has lower total iron, lower metal, but a bit higher iron oxide. And then the LLs have very low total iron and low metal, but really the highest in the oxides. And you'll be able to, it's hard to photograph that, but I may, after the talk, try and pull one out and see if I can show you the shiny metal inside of those slices. Okay. And in terms of iron meteorites, there's a few that I want to point out. There's a thing called a Wittmann-Statten pattern that you get when you cut, polish, and etch an iron meteorite, because they have certain percentages of nickel in there. And when you have a nickel iron and they slowly cool, some of theirs have a little bit higher nickel. Some areas will have a little bit less nickel. And they form crystals. And depending on how much nickel is in there, they will form crystals that are bigger. So You have a coarse octahedrite with really big crystals. Sometimes the crystals are so big that if you have a small meteorite and you etch it, you may not find much of a Wittmann-Staten pattern. It's usually a bigger one. Then you have coarse octahedrites, which are mostly what I have in my collection. And they're really, really beautiful pattern in there. You'll see. Medium octahedrites and fine octahedrites, finest. And then you have what's called an andesite. Those have really high amounts of nickel, about over 16%. And when you try and etch it, you don't get a pattern because there's just so much nickel. It's almost microscopic crystals. They're just so small you can't see them, if you can even see them at all. And I have one of those too. So let's get started with the most famous of all meteorites, Canyon Diablo. If I'm sure a lot of the members have gone to Meteor Crater, and as you could see, I have a bunch of swag from there. I have a few older things that from there, and obviously the shot glass is a cherished collectible. And that meteorite there is the largest one I have. I forgot to mention how much it weighs. It's probably close to a pound meteorite. And so I've gone there and I've done some photography. Basically what you're seeing is a composite of 3 images, so you can see the entire crater. Most of this white rock that you see in the front is what's called pulverized Coconino sandstone. And it's white because it's shocked. The meteorite that came in was about 150-foot chunk of iron traveling at 7 miles a second. It was going faster, but the air did slow it down to 7 miles a second and blasted out that crater. I mean, it just happened within a few seconds. The pressure going down pulverized the sandstone. And when the crater opened up, it just pulled all of the rocks and piled them on top. So the lower level rocks are now on the top, and the stuff that was on the top is a little bit farther down in and around here. And so it really just puts it all inside out, like pulling a sock off your foot. Let me get to the other image. Here's a better image of that pulverized Coconino sandstone. It's really incredible. And literally when you're walking around there, it turns into this white powder. And interestingly enough, if in the middle of the crater, you can see a little white patch, and I'm going to show you. By the way, there's a little area where people are standing on a kind of on a platform, and you can kind of see how big the crater is. By the way, the crater is 4,100 feet deep. 4,100 feet wide and 570 feet deep. So it's a pretty big crater, but kind of tiny in terms of impacts and what they can do. So there's that area. So the reason that is there is because when Daniel Berenger bought that land, he got one thing right. He knew that it was a meteorite impact that created the crater. Even some geologists thought, well, no, it was a steam burst, and they thought that the iron was from basaltic action, but he got that part right. The part he got wrong was he thought he could go drill down and find the main mass, and he didn't understand impact mechanics, and Gene Shoemaker eventually figured that all out. But what happened was they dug right in here. I don't know if you can see my arrow here, right in there, and dug down, didn't find anything. But when you hit the water table and the pulverized Coconino sandstone, you get quicksand. And so it didn't really pan out to find anything. They drilled into the side. They drilled all kinds of places, broke drill bits, found a few little fragments. Eventually the depression hit and they ran out of money. Turns out later that what happened is when the impactor hit the ground, it evaporated and condensed into small, tiny metallic spheroids that fell around the area, and literally that's where the main mass is. The meteorites you see, like at Griffith Observatory and the one I have here, came from when the meteorite was falling. It either was a swarm or pieces were breaking off, and the air was able to slow those smaller pieces down, and so they landed intact. So no, there was no main mass. Just about all, except for maybe some of the top part, survived the impact. And here's a cool picture that you don't see too often. I decided to stop the car and get a picture, and it just shows you how much the uplift of the cratering is, because literally the ground was turned inside out when the meteorite hit. Pretty amazing place. If you haven't gone, I highly recommend it. Tons of other stuff in the area you can see. I want to go back, as a matter of fact. And by the way, this is the metallic spheroids. This is from the American Meteorite Laboratory. Ninninger, who I believe started it, and I think his son continued it for a while. So these I was able to obtain. They stick right to a magnet, and that's what condensed from the impact. Okay, so let's get to Sikhote-Alin. Sikhote-Alin was an impact that happened in 1947. A meteorite came down and exploded over the Sikhote-Alin Mountains and created multiple craters. They found the meteorites embedded in trees. It was quite an event. The Russians, Russia actually made a postage stamp on the 10-year anniversary of the impact from a artist who actually was doing art and witnessed the event and decided to make that into a artwork of the particular event.
And what country was that in, Dave?
That's in Russia, Sikhote-Alin. It's in the I think it's the eastern part of Russia, maybe northeast part of Russia. It took a while to get in there because it's not easy to get into there. I mean, obviously, if this had fallen in a populated city, it would have been a catastrophic disaster. But these don't happen too often. So, but I was able to purchase a lot of these when was it? It was like the late 90s, around that time, and they were like flooding out of Russia because, it was easy to get this stuff, and they were literally selling for like 25 cents a gram. And the particular one you're seeing here is what's called an individual. It's got those thumbprint indentations. There's fusion crust. The area's smoothed out. The other type, and I'll show you, I hope I put that in there. It's called shrapnel. And it literally are the pieces that exploded near the ground. And it literally looks like, Army shrapnel, from explosives. Incredible stuff. But these are the most beautiful, with these beautiful thumbprint indentations. Here's a shrapnel, so that you could literally see the flow lines from that incredible pressure that caused that to explode. Literally looks like a piece of shrapnel. By the way, as much as I could, I put a centimeter square in there so you can kind of get an idea what the size of these are too. So let's look here. This one is a Sikhote-Alin. It's an individual, but it's oriented. So Most meteorites, when they fall, they're spinning. So they just, they eventually slow down and they just have little thumbprints all the way around. You don't particularly see anything that would indicate the direction they were falling. But this one did not tumble. And you could see the flow lines. And literally, it was falling from left to right. If you were looking at it, it was going down. It almost looks kind of like a bullet. It's one of the best I've ever gotten. I'll show you another one that's really incredible. But this one is just incredible. I couldn't believe nowadays this would cost like a ridiculous amount of money. But then all of them were going for good prices. This is the one. This literally looks like a I don't know, bullet or something. The top of it, the head, you could see the flow lines. And it's interesting when you look at that. And when I went to the Science Center and saw some of the Apollo capsules and the heat shield, I saw, well, that's how they figured out heat shields. They looked at oriented meteorites similar to this and figured out what the best way to make heat shields. And literally, the flow lines looked exactly like what you saw in the heat shields. Obviously after they came through the atmosphere. This one's small. I didn't put the square on there. It's probably about maybe an inch or so. It's sitting on a magnet. Hold on a second. Okay. This one's an interesting one. The top part has fusion crust and flow lines. So you can kind of see the flow lines. But when you get below that, it looks like shrapnel. And what really happened there is that as it was falling, it broke up. But it broke up just as it was slowing down, so it couldn't smooth out any of the broken part. And it literally broke up in the crystal structure. And this is a coarse octahedrite. So it literally, you can almost make out some of the crystal where it, in between the crystals are weak points. And that's probably where they broke up. And this one literally broke up, but did not, wasn't ablating anymore. And it literally fell like that. And it's a bit weathered. Some of the fusion crust is weathering off a bit, but this one I really, really like. I've never seen any other one like that until recently. I saw something similar. And one of the meteorites at Griffith Observatory is from Socotoline, and it has a similar look. It's not quite shrapnel, but I believe it broke up high up without exploding, where it's not twisted or anything. It's just looks like it's broken up on the crystal structure. Okay, here's my pride and joy. This is called Campo del Cielo. This one is a coarse octahedrite. It's a 13 pounder, and that's the one I take to the star party sometimes to show off. I don't let people handle it because 13 pounds weighs a lot, especially when it's concentrated in a size like that. It has all the thumb printing and all of that. Obviously no fusion crust anymore. This one fell probably around 5,000 years ago, something like that. In Meteor Crater, that meteorite fell 50,000 years ago. This one is a coarse octahedrite, and it's just beautiful. I love that meteorite, and it's just that's the one you'll probably see if I take it out and we finally get back to star parties. That's the same one. I just put it up higher so you can see different vantage point. It's just a stunning piece. I love it. So this is a Campo del Cielo that's been cut and polished and etched. And you can see the crystal structure. Some of I can't remember which one is there. There's there's two different kinds, and one of them has a little more nickel, one less nickel, and they have intertwining crystals. So when they're inside of an asteroid, the iron, it's molten, like the Earth's is churning, but eventually it starts to cool, maybe a few degrees per million years. When the nickel to iron ratios are just right, that slow cooling allows crystal structures to happen. And you get this. That's why this is the ultimate definitive test that is an iron meteorite. When you have that structure, because there is no process on the surface of the Earth that can reproduce this. This has to be done in the middle of an asteroid that is very, very slowly cooling. And you can see that structure. It's really beautiful. I love this. Okay, let's move on. So here is one. This is from Toluca. It's a coarse octahedrite. That's from Mexico. I have seen pictures of watch faces with this particular meteorite. It's a really particularly beautiful structure. And then I'm going to show you there's areas where there's it may be shocks, stuff from a shock, but there's weak. This is a weak area that could possibly rupture when it's coming through the atmosphere. And then what you would have in that area, it would break in that area. And then if it's still traveling, at speeds that cause it to ablate, it would smooth that out and you would have these indentations in there. And that's how that happens. I believe this is a carbon inclusion. Sometimes those are in meteorites. And this is from Gibeon in Namibia, Africa. So the cool thing is it's actually shaped like Africa. Gibeons were flooding into this country in the mid 90s, I think, maybe somewhere around there. And again, they were really, really inexpensive. I can't remember what I paid for this, but that was the largest meteorite I had, before the big one I bought. And this one has a fine octahedrite. Those are really incredible. And you literally can make stuff out of that. I've seen all kinds of jewelry with etched pieces. Also, they have made swords out of those because you can cold work them. The really tight fitting crystal structure and just another graphite inclusion in here. That makes it really easy to work with it. You can actually make swords out of them. They did find some iron material in the Egyptian tombs. So that was before the Iron Age. And so that was obviously from meteoritic iron that they found. Obviously, they didn't know what it was. It was just pretty magical because they didn't see that before. And this is an Attisite. This is one that you can't get a Whitman-Staton pattern. This was polished, but not etched because you wouldn't get anything. This is the one that has the highest nickel content. This is from Chinja in Russia. And it's a pretty cool little meteorite, but no Whitman-Staton pattern. So let's get to Palisites, and this is stony iron. So the belief is that they came from the boundary between the rocky mantle and the iron core. There's also some thought that some came from impacts when large irons would smash into meteorites that have lots of olivine, and they somehow mixed there. I saw a paper on that, but right now the traditional feeling is that these were from the boundary of the Rocky Mountain and iron core. Probably impacts mixed some of the material. I believe the iron has a lower melting point than the olivine. So there's some ways it could be mixed together. They're incredible. They have beautiful crystals. The olivine, and some of them are literally gem quality peridot. It's the same thing as what's in our mantle in the earth. It's another one. You could see the really beautiful crystal structure, and this is actually the Whitman-Staton pattern of the metallic part. This one was etched and polished, and you can kind of see the different structure. Again, these crystals, some of them are just stunning. I've seen somebody actually I know is making jewelry out of the stones and fastening the crystals into gemstones. Pretty cool stuff. And this is the way it looks like when you shine light through it, and you can see how it is. A lot of them are they're not quite broken. They're just cracks throughout because there's a lot of shock going on. There are tons of impacts that probably caused that, and maybe even the impact that sent this flying out into the solar system. Really, really nice. And so we'll get into ordinary chondrites. I'm going to put this up so as to show you the chondrules that I was talking about. There's 6 different varieties of them. And it depends on the temperature of the inside the parent body. So if you have, this is especially for carbonaceous chondrites. There's type 1 and 2 have aqueous alteration. So they will alter the chondrules because of water. And so 1 and 2 have, when you get to 3, those are pristine. Type 3 chondrite will basically be really well distinct. Sometimes it'll literally look like no matrix and you're just loaded with chondrules. And then they eventually, the hotter the parent body gets or how deep they are, they will start to change and break up and become less distinct. At some point, you get to 7, and those are rare. I don't have a 7. I've not seen many of those, to where they're just pretty much all gone. And that's probably from very deep inside of the asteroid. Okay, let's go here. So here is, this is a NWA 5421. So let me explain what NWA means. It stands for Northwest Africa. So, and this was in the early 90s. They started to find just loads of meteorites in the Northwest African desert around Morocco. And they started to find tons of them. And what they did is the Meteoritical Society is the one that names them. So what they do is the first one that's discovered is NWA 001. And then it just keeps going up and up. So this one was the 5,421st one that was not only discovered, but was classified. And so this one is an LL37. So there's very little iron in there. It's still in the 3s. So the chondrules are just beautiful. They're literally, there's no matrix in this one. It's a bit weathered. So some of the iron, whatever was there, is probably weathered out, and you have a little rust staining in there, but it's still a really beautiful slice. And this one is a Witness Fall. This fell in 2018. It's from Abu Panu in Indonesia, and that's an L3. Just beautiful chondrules. And what I can do is zoom in a little bit and just check out. It's extremely well defined. Beautiful. There's a little bit of matrix in there. Pretty cool stuff. So let me just go back down there. And let's see. This one is a Northwest Africa unclassified. So what happens is so many have been discovered that it's getting hard to get them classified, and it's expensive to get them classified. So if they are a common chondrite that wouldn't get much money, and so they wouldn't want to spend the money to get it classified, they'll just sell it as unclassified. Well, this one, in my uneducated way, the way I look at this is probably an L3.5 to L4. There's plenty of nice chondrules in here, but you're starting to see some that aren't quite, distinct. It could also be more matrix in there, but that was a nice one. And when they're unclassified, obviously they become less expensive to purchase. And then this one is a beaut. This one is classified. It's NWA 11802. So as you can see, they're starting to classify a lot of them. And this is an L3.3. So it is almost as good as it gets. This chondrule here is just beautiful. I mean, it's amazing to think how old this stuff is. Literally, you're seeing material just as it was starting out. And this is kind of how the Earth started out until it got too big, heated up, and we had differentiation going on, and we have a iron core and everything. So most of the rocks on the surface that you see are not very old at all, maybe within millions of years. You go to a volcano, those are probably within a few hours old. So that's how that one is. That's a small one. That's probably about an inch maybe. I didn't have that square on there. Now so this one is a very, very common one. They sold a ton of these. This is a NWA 869 L4-6, which means it's a kind of a breccia. So this area here, you see some chondrules that have definition. And then you see this area here where you almost don't see any chondrules. So you're literally seeing basically a surface that's been impacted really hard, and it maybe brought up some more changed rock material than some that was farther up, and it's literally fused together. Pretty cool stuff. 869 was relatively inexpensive, but it's just a beautiful meteorite, especially when you slice it and then polish it up. Looks really, really nice. And then this one is from, it's called Saya Al Amur in Oman. It's an L4-5. So it's another similar one, a bit more weathered, but the chondrules really come out really nice on this. As you can see, some areas just don't have much definition, but still a pretty cool meteorite. And then this one is a bit more. This is an H5. So this has got a lot of iron in it, as you can see from the rust stains. So this is a big area of iron, all of this. So it's really loaded with iron in it. And I showed you one also with the fusion crust. So when a meteorite falls, the air in front of it gets compressed so much to the point that it's heating up to just ridiculous temperatures. I'm not sure exactly what the temperature is, but it's so hot that it becomes bright enough to where it literally can be as bright as the sun. And what happens though is the heat transfers up and around the meteorite. So the meteorite itself is really cold, but that outer area gets gets just blasted and it smooths out in any rough spots. And then eventually the air slows it down and it's no longer ablating, and this area just freezes. And so you just have a very thin layer of this fusion crust. And then, as you can see, right underneath it, it's just as the meteorite would have looked in space. This one was on the ground a little while, so you have some rust stains. The environment for meteorites on the Earth is not very good, because the air and water are just awful for it. And most of the meteorites have iron in them, and so those start to rust pretty quickly if you don't get them out of the ground. And here is the one that fell in Russia. This is Chelyabinsk. It's an LL5. Fell on February 15th of 2013. I'm sure you've all seen the video. It literally exploded over the town of Chelyabinsk. What happened was, it's high enough up to where people saw the explosion, but they saw the light and they saw the smoke trail, and they went to their windows and looked. But that pesky shock wave takes time to get there. And what happened is, when that shock wave got there, it was a literal explosion. It literally imploded all the windows in the town that were facing in the direction, set off car alarms and all kinds of stuff, blasted doors open. And the meteorites, though, didn't fall in the town. They fell farther down. And they were, it literally broke them into smaller pieces that were burning through the atmosphere and eventually slowed down. They fall in what's called an elliptical strewn field. So the larger pieces will fall at the front of that strewn field, and the smaller ones will fall towards the back, because the larger ones have more momentum. The air is not going to slow them down as much. And that's what they do. So what meteorite hunters now are doing is not just getting eyewitness reports. They're literally going back to Doppler radar to look for the signature, because it's moving. You're going to have radar signatures for them, and literally they can actually find the strewn field through that medium. It's pretty incredible, because it's not an easy thing to do. And they were able to find that rather quickly, and a tremendous amount fell on that day. It was probably the biggest air blast since Tunguska. This one was smaller, though, but it was the biggest one since then. Okay, so here's a picture of a thin slice of a meteorite that is cross-polarized light. So I have I do it the cheap way. I have a nice little stereo microscope for looking at minerals and such. And I put two photographic polarizing filters together, one on the bottom and one at the top, and got this image. Now, this is through my cell phone. I used that Celestron device to put it over one of the eyepieces, and was able to get a picture of a chondrule. This is what a chondrule looks like. It's got all these little crystals that start to form in there. And this is a pristine chondrule. It is beautiful. I mean, literally looking at how this is forming is amazing. All these colors represent different minerals and compounds. I need a geologist to look at that and tell. I don't know. Many of them have pyroxene, olivine, and stuff like that. One thing you won't find in meteorites is quartz. That is, you need something like a planet with water, air, and stuff like that to create quartz. So here is some more Chelyabinsk. Oh no, I'm sorry. We're getting to carbonaceous chondrites. And this is from Pueblo de Allende. This was a fall that happened in 1969. I believe it was February 15th. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, February 8th, 1969. And it was the largest fall of this particular meteorite. More meteorites of this type fell than were in any and all of the collections around the world. And it happened to be a very rare type of CV type meteorite. It's carbonaceous chondrite. And the lucky break was that was about the time NASA was getting their laboratories all set up to bring back moon rocks for the Apollo mission later that year. So many of the meteorites went in there, and turns out it's one of the most heavily analyzed meteorites because there's so much to analyze. And I will show you some. So here is a slice of the meteorite. You have really nice chondrules in here, a lot of matrix. This is this fine dust that was in there. But the really cool stuff in this meteorite are these things here. This is called calcium aluminum rich inclusions. They are very high temperature material, very high melting point. They are the first solids to condense out of the solar nebula. So you're literally seeing that first solids that came out of the solar nebula when the sun was forming. They also have in the matrix small amounts of pre-solar grains. They're small diamonds and such that were formed in the atmospheres of red giants. And this is a good indication that there was supernova around here that went off that probably sent shockwaves that started star formation that created our sun. Really, really cool stuff. Really, really cool. Then here's another one, really huge one. This is just magnificent. Again, these were really easy to get in it was around the late 90s, maybe. A ton of them came out, and they were literally, actually, yeah, this was in the 90s for sure. They were literally $5 a gram, which for a stony meteorite is a good price, but for a carbonaceous chondrite was ridiculous. And so I purchased a bunch of those, and I still have them in my collection. Don't intend to sell them. They're pretty amazing. And this one is a different type. This one is called Aguas Zarcas. This fell recently in April 25th in 2019. And here is another example of a meteorite that is oriented. I'm going to zoom into here a little bit if I can do. Oh, it won't let me zoom. Darn. Oh, well. This is, you could see the flow lines here. This basically where I'm pointing my arrow, if you can see it, is the direction it was coming down. And then when I show you the other side, you can see where it accumulated the fusion crust as it was starting to pile over the side. Just a stunning little piece I was able to pick up. And this is the interior. This is type of meteorite, and you can see some of the nice little chondrules in there. But the interesting thing is when they got there, they had to really get to it quick, because in Costa Rica you get a lot of rain, and the day when it fell, it didn't rain, and so they were in a big rush to get these pieces because the rain was predicted, and they were able to collect a bunch pre-rain, because in terms of analyzing them, the rain would actually destroy the delicate material. I forget the term, but there's gases and stuff that are inside volatiles, that's the term I'm looking for, that are inside that will just get ruined very quickly, or if it just sits out too long. And so they were able to collect enough to get them into the lab, and they got them, I believe, at the State University in Arizona. And they're now doing work on it. Now, in these particular type meteorites, they've literally found amino acids in there. And it's not from life, but it's the building blocks of life. So it's a very good pointer to the fact that meteorites may have contributed to the development of life, because some of the material that you need for life are in these meteorites. They're really incredible. Plus, these do also have pre-solar grains, very primitive stuff, just incredible stuff. So I'm going to get into some of the ones in Northwest Africa that are not classified. And this one is astounding. There was a guy who likes to buy stonies, and especially if they're oriented, and then he sells them. And so I saw he was selling this one, and the picture wasn't super great, but I said, that looks pretty darn good, I'll pick it up. And when it came, it looks like I thought he made a mistake and sent me a fresh fall. This literally looks like it fell yesterday. Beautiful fresh fusion crust, and it's 100% fusion crust. There's not even a break in this. Just beautiful. And that's a rare thing for Northwest Africa, because this must have fallen very recently. And just because they fall on land doesn't mean it's going to be witnessed, especially in Northwest Africa, because it's very sparsely populated. And so this one's a really good one. And this one is, yes, this one's a bit more weathered, but this is also oriented, and it's got fluting, all from the traveling through the atmosphere. And there's other stuff I could tell you about it. This weathering here means this part was underground. So it was rusting some of the metal inclusions in here. This part is windblown. This was sticking out of the ground. So it's got some desert varnish on the top. So I can kind of tell just by looking at it how it was situated in the Northwest African desert. It's pretty cool. Then this one has some fluting, relatively fresh, and you can see flow lines here. So this was traveling, going this direction, and eventually slowed down. And this is basically the atmosphere just smoothing out any breaks that were in there and creating that beautiful look. This is also, they're all chondrites. They have metal inclusions, but I have no idea whether it's an L, LL, or H, or what the iron content is. Sometimes I can put a magnet on there, and if it sticks harder, I'll think, well, maybe it's an H, but that's not the actual real way to do it. So we're going to get to 8 chondrites now. I don't have a lot, but there were some that were from the asteroid Vesta, Eucretes, Howardites, and Diogenites. So Eucretes are basically from the surface, and they basically are basaltic. You could see there, this is kind of a breccia. You have some coarser grain material, finer grain material here. This was from a witness fall in Milbilili, Africa. I believe this was in October of 1960. And this fell. So this was an actual witness fall. And then let's see what else I have here. This one is a weird meteorite. This is an achondrite, unlike anything I have ever seen ever. It's these green crystals are what's called pyroxene. I'm not sure what the other part, there's little iron inclusions in there. And this is literally magma, the oldest magma you'll ever see. This is magma from a different world. It has some of the similar type of look that magma has on Earth, but I've never seen these beautiful green pyroxene crystals. Light will shine through. This one's incredible. It's pretty much ungrouped. They have to, I'll be looking forward to hearing more studies on this one. And then the other type are the meteorites from the moon and Mars. And this one is basically from the moon. It is a breccia. It's from the highlands. So the dark area is a shocked rock, and this is more from material that's called anorthosite, some of the younger part of the moon or older part of the moon. And this is what a lot of the moon rock looks like. I'm finding a lot of material, moon meteorites look like this. And there's some that are a little different. They're different types. They're not as common. This one seems to be the most common now. Now, the thinking is, now there hasn't been a witnessed fall of a lunar meteorite. There's been one of a Martian meteorite, but not of a lunar. And the thinking is that when you do get falls, it's basically not soon after a huge impact on the moon. So when you have a huge impact, it'll blast out material from the moon, and it won't take long for it to get to the Earth. It may take, I'm not sure, maybe a year or something, because it's all very close. The Earth does have gravity, and you'll get a bunch of falls from lunar meteorites, and they fall evenly around the world. And then you won't see any for a long time until an impact happens. So that's kind of my idea, but that's kind of what I heard. I heard that at the UCLA Meteorite Gallery. That's what they're saying. So this is pretty cool. Here's another one. This is, again, these beautiful inclusions. Some are a little bit grayer than others. The moon is a mixture of all kinds of stuff because of all the impacts. Stuff gets blasted out and then gets compounded down again into rock. And it's been going on for 4.5 billion years. Pretty cool stuff. So here's the Martian meteorite. I have a few of these, but nothing really big because they're quite expensive. This is basically, you're seeing Martian basalt. So this is, how it, I guess, inside the planet, it just crystallizes into this form here. Meteorite hit Mars, and it blasted all that stuff out. Eventually lands on Earth. There have been a few witness falls of a Martian meteorite. So this one is pretty cool. By the way, at Griffith Observatory, we have in our California meteorites a Martian meteorite that was found in LA County. It's LAOO1 and 2 or something like that. And we have a oriented stone, beautifully oriented stone, and a slice. So if you ever go there, check that out. And that's my big meteorite with a astronaut that's checking that out. Obviously, you can tell how much I like that one. And that one is the Canyon Diablo. I got a later picture of it. It's really nice. You can see the square even better on that one. And this one actually fell in Vinales, Cuba. It was a pretty decent fall. Here's the side with the fusion crust, and this is the internal structure. It's, I believe, a L6. There's virtually no Whitman-Staton pattern anymore in there. And that is the cloud trail for the Chelyabinsk meteorite that stayed in the air for quite a while. So that's my talk. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Dave. That was really awesome. I learned many things.
Oh, good.
Thanks, Dave.
So
if there's questions, feel free to ask away. I'll try.
How do you differentiate a meteorite from a rock?
what can I see this?
I'm sorry, was that a question?
Yeah, yes, that's a question.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
How can you differentiate the meteorite from just a rock?
The chondrites are relatively easy. What you're looking for, first, there's a rock that attracts to a magnet. And if you get that, that's just the very beginning, because magnetite sticks to magnets. You can literally drag a rock through the beach and you're going to get tiny grains of sand, that black sand that sticks to the magnet, and that's all magnetite. So when you look inside, if you see literally metallic iron inclusions in there, that's a very good indicator that's a meteorite. I would say that's almost a clincher. There's very little native iron in rock. There's a few small areas on the planet where I think in Russia, maybe in Germany, where they have rock that does have iron in it. It's native iron. Very rare on the surface of the earth because it's so highly reactive in it, and it just rusts away too quickly. If it's an iron meteorite, if you see a chunk of iron on the ground, there's one of two possibilities. It's either an iron meteorite or a human artifact. And the way they tell is they got to bring it into the lab, and they, through spectral analysis, look for signatures of nickel. And that's a very good indicator. If you cut and polish it and it gives you a Whitman-Staton pattern, that's it. It's an iron meteorite. There's no doubt. And in terms of 8 chondrites, that's a harder one. Unless you find fusion crust, after a while, they start to look like earth rocks, and it's very hard to tell. Are
they still heavier than earth rocks, though?
The ones that have iron in it, the stony meteorites, like the one I have here, I don't know if you can see it.
Yep.
So this one just does feel heavier than a rock this size, because rocks on Earth don't have iron inclusions in them. But the 8 chondrites probably wouldn't be that much heavier because they're differentiated. They're more like Earth rocks than anything.
In density and size.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. A question from the chat. How often are meteorites hitting the Earth, and why certain locales like Northwest Africa get more hits than others, or do they?
Excellent question, excellent. In terms of how often, it depends on size. If you leave your car out for a few weeks, some of that dust on top of your car will be extraterrestrial, because the dust just eventually floats down. The bigger the piece, the rarer it is. Most meteorites that fall will fall in the ocean. So meteorites will fall evenly across the planet. There's no one area that gets it. The reason the deserts seem to accumulate more is because of the environment. If a meteorite falls in the rainforest, it's hard to find, and the rainforest is an awful place for especially a common chondrite to land, because it's going to be gone within a couple of years at least, and it's going to be really, really rusted out even within the year. When they fall in the desert, it's dry. It's not humid. There's no foliage, and they could literally sit there for thousands of years, and they accumulate in the desert as opposed to other areas that don't have it, especially deserts that are older deserts. You'll find a lot more. And so that's the reason why let's say you go to Griffith Observatory, we have a map with the amount of meteorites that are found, and you see a ton in the Mojave Desert and the areas around there. And then you go to the Sierra Nevada, you hardly see anything. The best you can do there is if there's a witness fall, then you'll find it. Like in Sutter's Mill, there was a witness fall of a rare type carbonaceous chondrite. And because it was seen, they were able to triangulate it and get to the place and find some of the individuals. We have one at Griffith Observatory as well. So I hope that answers that question.
Questions? First of all, thank you, David. I think it was terrific. Your lecture is great.
Oh, great.
The question, would you or anybody in the group know, it seems to me that all the meteor showers that we've been getting lately have been fewer sightings of meteors. Is something going on that we don't know about, or is this happening that way?
In terms of meteors, that is dependent on the stream. What you're not really seeing rocks fall and creating meteors. You're seeing bits of ice and debris from a comet, a path. And sometimes, like the Leonid meteor storm, there's a thick part, and you go through that and you see 1,000 per hour, like we did that one November. But there's times it may not be as much. There's also light pollution is a problem. Everything's getting a lot more light polluted. So the brighter the sky gets, you're going to miss the ones that are not very dim. So it's hard to tell. I've not heard anything about that. It's the first I've heard of it. But I do know I went, was it a Memorial Day? I went to Lockwood thinking, okay, I'm going to catch this storm. So I brought my little tracker and put my camera up and pointed it to the sky. And I caught one tiny, streak that ended up as a meteor. Hardly worth, but I process it and say, yeah, at least I got this, But I saw more than I was able to capture on the lens because they don't like my lens. So I did see it like 4 or 5 or 6, but, more than normal, but it certainly wasn't that storm they were predicting. That would have been cool. But
yeah. One quick question.
David,
okay, I'm sorry. I just want to ask
David,
one.
go ahead.
I was just a question. What's the most expensive meteorite that is around? How expensive do these things get?
Oh, geez. Well, it depends on how rare it is and how much people want it. The ones that are really expensive sometimes are the ones that hit something. I know, and it's really weird. A common chondrite that fell in Peekskill, New York, and this was in '92 or something like that. And literally everybody was on a Friday night with their video cameras, videotaping high school football games, and this bright fireball was coming down, and everybody was videotaping this, and they caught all the videos, got all over the place, and only one of the fragments that broke up fell that could be found, and it fell through the trunk of this teenage girl's car. It was a junker car, but it was hers. And she said she heard a big crash and went out, and the whole back of the trunk was imploded with this big meteorite that was underneath it that had red marks on the fusion crust from the paint. And that's what meteorite collectors and professionals call hammerstones. And those command a lot. The literally a tiny piece of it was, or a small piece, maybe 20, 30 grams would be super expensive. I don't know what it is now. I was able to buy a little tiny little slice, maybe I don't know, it's not even a 1/4 inch, but I have a piece of that, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be a rare type meteorite, but if it hits something, it's rare. And surprisingly, the stuff that gets hit by meteorites becomes a commodity, because that's how often does that happen? The car itself, so she quickly became unconcerned when the dealers came out, and she eventually got like around 20 grand for a car that was maybe worth $1,000, or 25 grand for that car, and the meteorite on top of it was on their property, so it was theirs. So they did well on that. I was able to pick up some broken glass from the Chelyabinsk. That didn't hit anything. The shockwave created that, and I still consider that very important, because that is a major effect of meteorites that could be more devastating than an actual impact. Because just look at Tunguska, what it did. If that happened in a city, that literally, without any pieces falling, would have devastated a city. So that's something that they learned a lot from in Chelyabinsk.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Another chat question, David, is are these dated? How closely are these dated, and are they very different? Like, are the Mars
in terms of dated from when they formed, or
how old
when they formed? Okay, so basically, common chondrites, even iron meteorites, all about 4.5 billion years. When you're talking about that much, a couple 100 million years or a couple tens of years doesn't mean much, and a lot happened in between there. So when chondrules formed, I think I wrote down a note on here on this. I'm not sure. Oh, I'm not sure, but there was a note on how soon after the calcium aluminum inclusions, and it must have been maybe about maybe 20, maybe to 50 million, 20 million years after that, some of the chondrites, but I may be wrong on that. I'm gonna have to relook that up. I changed notes. I may have thrown that out.
Other question is, where do you get these things?
Where do I get these things? Well, let me first, I'm not finished answering that first one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So the common chondrites are about 4.5 to 4.6 billion years old. Those are the first geological processes. The iron meteorites, a little younger, by just maybe millions of years, because all of this happened very quickly. The meteorites from the moon and Mars, especially Mars, are younger, because you literally have geological processes going on, especially on Mars. The moon depends on the inclusions, I think. Some of those, and Northosite probably are pretty old, closer to 4.5 to 4.4 billion years old. And so that's pretty much that. In terms of where I get them, my very first meteorite was a small iron meteorite from Odessa, Texas. That's very similar to the Canyon Diablo that I got at a nature store in Santa Barbara. Has to be around 1991 or something like that. And I was like, I cannot believe, and this is just when I was getting into astronomy, and I'm holding this in my hand. I can't believe I can actually own this. I see this in museums, and that it just, it clicked something in my head, the same way as when I saw Jupiter through my first telescope, and I saw cloud bands, and I said, those are NASA pictures. I can see this. So the same thing happened there, and I started getting more interested in, and then just a little here, buy one there. Basically, it's RTMC, when RTMC actually happened. And early on, we had a lot of meteorite dealers there, and it was a great time to get them there. Mineral shows, the Costa Mesa show here was really good in the 90s. Was able to get a lot of good stuff there. And then eBay, I started to know some of the dealers, and I know some of the dealers there. There's a Facebook club of dealers and collectors that I'm on Facebook with. And so I kind of know who they are. In terms of eBay, you have to be careful. As a matter of fact, when you do a search for meteorites, do pretty much North America. So China is completely taken out because there's just tons of phony garbage coming out of there. And eBay just is really wonky about, closing down some of these.
Okay, and last question before we need to get to the drawing. We're getting close.
Oh, okay.
Did I get this from you?
That looks familiar. Yeah, I think
it's Diablo. It's Diablo Canyon. Did I buy this from you a long time ago?
Oh God, I don't know.
Not
it
Great
may
Lakes.
Have been. It looks familiar, but I just can't remember.
Okay.
But that's a nice one.
It's a 68.9 gram. Diablo Canyon, got a specimen certificate card with it.
You don't remember? Do you remember getting it from me?
I don't know where else I would have got it.
Huh.
I don't go to any of the things that you talk about.
Oh, like RTMC and all that.
Yeah, and I think when you when you got the bigger one, I think you got the bigger one from Diablo. That you were selling the smaller one.
Okay, the biggest one I got more recently. That came through.
Well, if I did, thank you, and if I didn't, it's still really cool.
Hey, I probably am the culprit,
Hey, David, if you want to stop sharing your screen, everybody gets bigger on the page.
Okay, let's see. How do I do that?
Somewhere there.
Let's see. Let me take this off. And then how do I stop? Did I stop it?
Good.
You stopped sharing.
That was it.
You're good.
Okay.
So let me remind people to sign up for the drawing. 29 people have signed up. There are 37 in the meeting.
So give everybody a minute. Thank you, Dave. Dave, it was really awesome. I wasn't expecting to learn that much or have it be that good.
Oh,
so there you go.
I was worried myself. I've never done this talk. So
well, do it again for other people. Someone in the chat said it was the best meteorite presentation I've ever watched.
Wow.
And also that was, what's his first name? Anyway, he also helps in the chat. I like when he puts stuff in. You mentioned something and he'll add a little bit of information about that. You
could thank Tim because he was the one that nudged me to do it. So it's his fault.
We're good. It all worked out really well then.
David, I sent you some information. I don't know if you want more of a picture, if I can get that so it doesn't.
You got to lose your background. You got to lose the background.
Yeah, I see it. Comments. Yeah, that's written by Ninninger.
Yeah,
and it's
I bought this in 1968 from the Strasbourg Planetarium.
Yes,
and
hold on to it.
Prized possession.
Hold on to it because that is it's kind of a historic character, and he did a bunch of good stuff for meteorite. For meteorites. Yeah, that's cool. Don't ever lose that one.
I won't. Thank you.
Hey, Tim, do you want to mention who we have for next month for speaker, or you want to wait?
Oh, I can certainly do that if you want. I've already confirmed whether that she will talk.
I think it'd be a good teaser
Our-
for next month.
Yeah. So our speaker next month will be Brienne Starsky, and she is an optical scientist, optical systems scientist, and a deputy project systems engineer for the Giant Magellan Telescope. Now, we've had talks on the 30 meter because I know Warren Skidmore and I talk him into it, but 30 meters not being built yet, and it's not going to be built on Hawaii. It's going to go to the Canary Islands. Nobody will officially tell you that at the TMT project, but bet on it. They're not going to build it in Hawaii. But the GMT is actually being built now. The mirrors are being fabricated. They're digging the holes and pouring the foundations. And so it's really going to happen 2025 or 2026. So we're going to have a talk about that next month.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, great. All right, I guess we should close the sign up
Okay.
and have a drawing.
All right. Hang on one second. Let me collect the names.
I have to wake up Alicia.
What do you mean, wake me up? I've been drooling this entire time. No, I'm joking. No, I absolutely love these so much. This is why I go to science museums all the time. It's the first place I go to. So
Only teasing.
Alicia never sleeps. She just hides.
All right. I got the drawing. Hang on one second. Let me do a screen share here.
And what do we have for our lovely contestants tonight, Alicia?
Okay. Well, here we go. Here's the.
no.
All right. So the first one is Kenji.
Ooh, Kenji won a $25 Amazon gift card.
Hey,
Okay.
Kenji here?
Yeah, you just said yay.
Oh,
Right?
okay. Sorry, I missed
no,
it.
I was
Oh,
clapping.
that was David Yackerson.
Oh, that's
Next one is Ernesto.
Ernesto's there.
I'm gonna write it down before I say it because you're gonna cancel it the moment I say what he got. There we go. He won an LAAS hat.
All right. Hat for Ernesto.
Okay. Robert Farley.
Robert won a laser. Woo!
Woohoo.
Oh, boy.
Casimir.
Which one? No.
There's
Only one
only
good.
one Schrodinger's Kaz.
Yeah, and he's doing a happy dance here.
What? He won a celestial observation path of the moon.
Okay. Ray.
Looks like Ray, wake up. You won something. You're muted.
Ray won a red flashlight.
You gotta go. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay,
You're welcome.
how many more?
One more.
Zoli.
So you won an item from the gift store, LAS store.
Yay. Hey, Zoe.
Okay.
Yay.
Other items available at laas.org at the merchandise section.
And if you haven't done it, please sign the dark sky petition.
I think that wraps up our meeting. You can
Right.
stop recording and people are welcome
Okay.
to stay and chat for, how long do you leave it on for, Spencer? 15?
About half an hour or so.
Okay.